first year is the hardest. You have to adjust to the new job. Your family has to adjust to your new job. You have to sharpen your skills. And also you have to deal with all the negative self-talk we sometimes do to ourselves, right? And after the first year, the break does not matter as much. Your growth is really dependent on your performance in that year. Sure, there will be a blank spot on your resume, and maybe depending on the length, the amount of explanation you have to give changes. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? Like, what does the length of the break matter?
It can matter. I have a good friend who came back to work almost 13 years later to the company that she used to work at. And transitioning is hard. So the decision she made was to take a step down and get into a role. She couldn't get back to her old role. It's a high-tech company, so things move pretty quickly. So she got back in, and I think it helped her sort of adjust, like you said, to transition, just getting used to work, family transition. So it helped her sort of get her skills back. A lot of it is muscle memory. I mean, she remembered everything from her old job. It just came back to her fingertips as she did it. And the fantastic thing is, in 6 months, essentially she's got back her old role. She's got a promotion. So in that case, the transition helped. And I constantly see this. I think it's how you are, what you're doing, your sort of enthusiasm and just your self-realization of what you're doing, sort of the work ethic and the relationships. In that case, what she'd built, she'd reached out to her old contacts just in LinkedIn saying, hey, I want to keep in touch. And those contacts actually helped push her resume through and say, hey, there's an opening coming, you should apply for this. So it's not even something that she was necessarily looking for as much as them reaching out to her. So you never know who your advocates are and who are the people who are going to help you, because there's so many of them willing and wanting to reach out and do that as well.
The other thing I think that matters also, in addition to the length, is when you take the break, right? For example, the type of job you look for when you take a break in your early 20s is very different from what you would look for in your 40s, right? 20s is all about that safety net, making sure you have everything in place for an emergency and all of that fun stuff, right? I remember when I took a 6-month break in my late 20s, there was a lot going on. I had to recalibrate. But when I went back to exactly the same company, same job, and that's what I wanted to do. But in my most recent break that I took for my kids, when I returned back, it was a little different. I was willing to make some trade-offs on where I would work at to pursue an intellectual challenge. I still wanted the money. I still need the money, but you're just willing to trade off a little bit to satisfy other needs in your life.
I think your mindset changes, right? Your thoughts and your wants. And I think it's sort of you coming to grips saying, okay, this is what I know. Sort of my needs have been met. Now, what do I want to do? So you've kind of repurposed your situation into what else can I do? Like I mentioned before, I started to explore what did I want to do and having those conversations. And that's really what it is. And being more focused, I was willing to make those jumpers much more quickly. And I think, frankly, having got laid off once and having taken the break, it sort of built more confidence that, hey, I can always do this, I can figure out and get this done. It can always be done. I think it's a question of just believing in yourself. And we all, as you mentioned, we sort of, it's hard for us sometimes to pull ourselves up, but definitely to be done.
So Siri, let's talk about hindsight, right? Hindsight is always 2020. Everything looks perfect. Oh, this happened. I did this and I came out in flying colors, right? But the truth is, when you're in the moment, there's a lot of craziness. You mess up a lot of things and you drive yourself and others crazy. Not just you, me too. And I'm sure there are a lot of other people who do that. So tell me, how did you try and keep yourself sane, even if it wasn't successful all the time?
Oh, my love is books. That's what keeps me sane completely. So when my kids were young, infants, my mom was helping. She came from India. And she would see me up at 11, 12, with a young baby staying up to read books. And she would say, what's wrong with you? Go to bed. This is the time to catch up on sleep. But you know what? I was completely willing to trade off that sleep for that my time. I so badly needed my time. So I would read books, and I would read 4 books at a time, 5 books at a time. I would max out the library limit. So anytime, I mean, most of my friends know this, drop me an island, a bunch of books, a bunch of chocolate, I am going to be so happy.
There's a little bit of insanity which hits you even when you start work, right? Because there's that negative self-talk, or not just negative self-talk. I feel like if you work for a while, you receive feedback, you see what works, what doesn't work, and then you put yourself in certain boxes and think, oh, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. And then, for example, like I'm tech savvy, I'm not tech savvy, or not a social media person, I'm an introvert, and all of those fun things. So I think what helped me was there was a article which I ran into on growth mindset. There was this famous psychologist who talks about it, and there are so many books on that, right? But essentially, it's a simple theory. You have to believe it's possible and put in the effort. Your brain will move around and do some magic to make it happen. They have a nice word for it that I think at the part of it, that's all there is. The brain will adapt to what you're trying to do.
We've had a conversation about returning to work. Can you pull all this together and give your food for thought?
The first thing that comes to mind is breaks are going to happen. Whether it's by choice or you were laid off, it's going to happen. And that's a way of life in your career. The second thing that comes to mind is trade-offs are also certain as you try and make a transition back to work, right? So that would be something to be prepared of. The third thing that we have learned from our experience is that we need to build that support system, your family, your friends, and your caregivers, whoever it might be, to help you get back into that and transition into work, right? And the last thing that I would say pulls everything together is to be easy on yourself. That in itself will make everything around the transition much easier.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. All the resources we talked about and show synopsis are available on our website, womencareerandlife.com. Please subscribe to us to be notified of future episodes of Women, Career and Life. We love hearing from our listeners. So if you like this podcast, please leave us a review. If you think a friend may benefit from this, please share this episode with them. You can also follow us on Instagram at Women, Career and Life. Until next time, this is Sirisha and Usha signing off. Remember, there are infinite possibilities to drive change in career and life, but it all starts by making one a reality today. Which possibility will you choose to make a reality today?